Bienvenidos a nuestro cuarto vídeo sobre el calentamiento global y el cambio climático. En estos vídeos hemos estado abordando cuestiones muy importantes para entender qué es el calentamiento global, como por ejemplo el impacto sobre los océanos y el papel que juegan estos en la regulación de nuestro clima. El objetivo de estos vídeos es acercarnos a un mejor entendimiento del fenómeno del cambio climático y entender que se trata de una cuestión muy importante que determina la regulación de nuestro clima y la supervivencia de nuestra y otras especies. En este cuarto vídeo salimos del océano para tratar una cuestión muy relevante, la deforestación. In this video, we will talk about the relationship between deforestation and climate by covering its definition, what is the purpose of deforestation, and how these activities contributing to global warming. We will be answering three questions. Question number one, what is deforestation and why do we do it? Question number two, what is the relationship between deforestation and climate change? And question number three, why does it matter? What are the consequences of deforestation? So let's begin our presentation by answering question number one. What is deforestation and why do we do it? Deforestation is the action of removing trees by clearing out forests for different purposes. According to the World Wildlife Fund, over 30% of the Earth's land surface is covered by forests that provide us with different benefits, from medicine to the absorption of carbon dioxide and to the provision of jobs. Around 55 million people have either a job in the forest sector or related to forests. Trees are cut down and forests are removed for different reasons. Over half of all deforestation comes from the combination of preparing land for farming and livestock use, drilling, and also mining. For the rest of the deforestation, there are other activities such as urbanization and roads, wildfires, removing trees to produce palm oil, as well as to sell wood and paper products. Deforestation is happening all over the world. Some places, such as land for livestock purposes in North America and Europe, are easier to identify. Others, however, such as rural and smaller communities, or especially the humid tropical forests, might go unnoticed. Actually, nowadays, most deforestation is happening in the tropics, and in this we find the Amazon rainforest, which is the largest remaining tropical forests in the world. This rainforest plays an exceptional role in global water cycles, supporting communities, and because of its biodiversity and billions of trees, it is considered Earth's lungs. Sadly, research and studies reveal that it has been strongly impacted by deforestation, with estimations showing that almost 11,100 square kilometers of this large rainforest were destroyed between 2019 and 2020. Question number two, what is the relationship between deforestation and climate change? In order to talk about the relationship between deforestation and climate change, it is vital to review some concepts about the trees' role in absorbing carbon. The carbon cycle is the existing relationship between the atmosphere and the surface of the Earth, where there is an established exchange called cycle. As we saw in our last video, oceans play a vital role in the carbon cycle because of the exchange of carbon dioxide between the atmosphere and these water masses. And not only the water, but also the living organisms that inhabit these waters absorb carbon too. Trees, on the other hand, participate in the carbon cycle through photosynthesis, which is a chemical process. For this process, trees need the carbon that they take in, the water they absorb, plus the sunlight and the oxygen they release. This means that through photosynthesis, trees store the carbon dioxide they absorb in their wood and they release it back into the atmosphere when they die. Trees and plants in the rainforests play such an exceptional role in absorbing carbon in the carbon cycle that they are considered carbon sinks, just like the oceans. However, rainforests can also constitute a carbon source under certain conditions. This means that they emit carbon instead of absorbing it. For example, when trees die and release the carbon stored in their wood back into the atmosphere, or when there are wildfires, but also because of deforestation. Rainforests have a great capacity to absorb carbon, but through deforestation, we're not only removing these carbon sinks that absorb the carbon, we're also cutting them down with the consequent release of carbon after they die. Other deforestation techniques include the clearings of forests through burning the trees down, which creates larger emissions of carbon dioxide. Remember that this is a greenhouse gas, to the atmosphere, and trees are no longer present to absorb this carbon that is being released. We have briefly seen that the purposes of deforestation include, especially since they account for more than 50% of all deforestation, preparing the land for livestock use, agriculture, mining, and drilling. These activities themselves contribute to larger emissions of carbon and greenhouse gases, such as methane released by animals and nitrous oxide used in fertilizers to the atmosphere. Actually, farm and agricultural emissions are only behind the energy sector when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. Although one of the main purposes for deforestation is livestock and agricultural production, there is an irony. These lands were once a forest full of nutrients and biodiversity that got cleared out through burning down its trees. One of the many consequences is that farmers are left with poor and basically useless soils because the fire took all the benefits and land nutrients away. And this repetitive process of burning fields down, clearing land, and planting to find a poor soil seems to never end. In reality, it is estimated that agriculture and livestock use represent 80% of tropical deforestation. In summary, it can be said that deforestation is contributing to climate change for the following reasons. Number one, forests, one of the main sinks of carbon dioxide, are being removed, no longer being able to absorb carbon and not being able to contribute to a stable carbon cycle. Number two, when forests and land are cleared out and trees are cut down, trees die and they can no longer store carbon, so they release it back into the atmosphere. Number three, land and forests can also be cleared out through other techniques, such as the use of fire. Burning these trees down only contributes to higher emissions of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, at the same time that there are not as many trees to absorb this carbon that is being released. And number four, agriculture and livestock, which represent one of the main reasons for deforestation, contribute to a larger release of greenhouse gases, such as methane and nitrous oxide, for example, fertilizers. Question number three, why does it matter? What are the consequences of deforestation? We have just seen the way that deforestation contributes to climate change. There are important and dangerous consequences from these activities, such as loss of biodiversity and extinction of species. By clearing out and removing forests, we're also destroying the habitats of millions of species, animals, and plants. As said before, one of the characteristics of rainforests, such as the Amazon rainforest, is its biodiversity. It is estimated that tropical forests contain about 50% of all terrestrial animals and plants. One example of many is how impactful deforestation is towards the orangutan. Since these animals live primarily in trees that are being removed to plant palm oil trees, particularly in Malaysia and Indonesia. Scientists believe that if current deforestation trends continue, orangutans will be eliminated in the wild. Changing water cycles. Rainforests play a major role in regulating precipitation through an exchange that works as a cycle between the land and the atmosphere. Changes in precipitation could lead to extreme weather events such as more floodings or longer droughts. Also, higher greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide coming from burning down forests, and methane and nitrous oxide from agriculture and livestock use. As greenhouse gases, higher emissions will lead to trapping more heat in the atmosphere. Soil erosion. The removal of trees and clearings of land can lead to soil erosion since there are no longer plants to fertilize the soil. In addition, this erosion can be sped up through plants that are usually used when the land is cleared out, such as palm oil trees, coffee, or wheat. And also, impacts in human lives. Forests provide billions of people with water and food, as well as shelter and jobs. Among these communities, there are millions of indigenous people who have been forced to move out of their villages to replace the land they live in with products such as palm oil, among others. Local communities suffer job and food supply loss, which leads to migration and social conflict. Acabamos de ver la relación existente entre la deforestación, las distintas prácticas de deforestación y el cambio climático, así como sus peligrosas consecuencias. Ahora es el momento de poner en práctica los conocimientos que ya tenemos. For today's topic, we're centering our activity on researching the presence of palm oil in common products. Do some research online to learn about products that have palm oil in them. And next time you go to the supermarket, look for them. Afterwards, write down your thoughts on palm oil products now that you know how it is made and what we could do to contribute to less deforestation. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more. Hasta luego.